My name is Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who loves to play with paper. Today, I'm going to show you how to make 3 cards using products from the Magic in This Night suite. If you have the August to December mini catalog, you can find that on page 53 of the catalog. If you don't have the catalog and don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, just message me. I'd be happy to get you a catalog. As you watch my video, I'll be sharing tips to make your paper crafting easier and your projects look great. Okay, let's get started. Our first card says, "Open if you dare." How perfect. It uses this beautiful black glitter ribbon and some of these iridescent pearls that are found in that suite. I find myself going back to these pearls for lots of projects. I love how they look on a card, and they're not so thick that they're going to make your envelope too thick for mailing. Let's get started, should we? So we're going to need, and I'll have all these on my blog that will be listed underneath the video. This is our card base. I think one of my favorite colors in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. It's called Blackberry Bliss. This is 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to fold it in half. For myself, I like using the grid paper. It helps me make sure that I'm straight. I think the grid paper is one of the most overlooked items in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. There we go. I like to get a sharp fold using the bone folder. If you don't have a bone folder, if you have a coated end of a small paper snips, that will work just great too. So there's our card base. Here's our envelope. And I'm a big believer in no naked envelopes. If you've worked hard to make someone a handmade card, let's give them a preview before they even open your envelope. It will let them know that there's something special in that envelope. So when I cover an envelope flap with paper, this is 2.25 by 6. It's a great use of those paper scraps. And for example, this card uses 2 different DSPs, or excuse me, pretty print papers. DSP is a Stampin' Up! Term for print paper. And so I can pick whichever scraps I have to cover the envelope. So I've done adhesive just around the outside. And now I'm just going to add that. There we go. And we'll set that aside. Okay, so on my card I have a black mat and this pretty paper. And notice that hole in my mat? We're going to need this circle later for our card front. So why not cut that out of your mat first? It's a great saver of paper, and no one's going to see that because the card base and this will cover it up on either side. So let's attach our mat. Just moving a couple things out of the way here. I'm using the Tombow liquid multi-liquid glue. You use whatever adhesive works best for you. I know some adhesives are meant for certain projects, but in reality, you're going to get the best outcome if you use the adhesive you're comfortable with. This is really strong. It doesn't need a lot. And the other reason I like it is it gives me a little grace. I can move things around if I don't quite have it where I want. Next, I'm adding this print paper. The back is gorgeous too. That's the thing about these papers. You always have to decide which one is going to work for which project. Let's have it go this way. There we go. All right, so next, I'm just taking a second to make sure I have it on straight. And again, because I'm using the liquid glue, I have that time. Next, let's make that band that goes on there. So this is another print paper that's in the packet. And this has, I'm not sure if you can see, it has little spiders running down it. Yeah, just the thing we need on a Halloween card. So I'm going to attach my print paper to this same Blackberry Bliss, just to think of it as a mat for that band. Whoops, we're getting out of the way here, guys. And again, you don't need a lot. I'm going to center that. Then I'm going to add the black glitter ribbon. I love this ribbon. It's in the annual catalog. It was a carryover. And when I'm deciding roughly how much ribbon I need, oftentimes I'll leave it on the spool because you waste less than. But I'm going to make a lot of these Halloween cards. And if I'm cutting them out ahead of time, roughly, I take 3 times the width if I'm going to knot, and 4 times the width if I'm going to tie a bow. So this is 4 inches. So I'm going to take 12 inches and trim it. And then I know I want the knot on this side, so I'm kind of playing with the ribbon just to get all to that side. And then to hold it in place, two things. I'm a big fan of tear and tape. It really does hold things in place without, you don't need much. So I'm going to turn this over like so. I'm going to get this ribbon in the center, and then this is just going to hold it in place while I'm working with it. Now for my knot, glue dots. It's like when you're wrapping gifts at Christmas and someone's helping by adding that finger to keep the, you know, your bow in place. That's what my glue dot is. So I'm going to put it where I want the knot to be. Then I'm going to knot my ribbon like so, and knot it again. There we go, like this. We're going to put something over the top of this, so I don't need any other glue dots there. And then I like how this kind of has that angled end. I'm going to do the same here. There we go. All right, let's attach that to our card front. I'm putting it a little higher just because of the sentiment, but you could put it on the bottom too. It wouldn't really matter. We're going to add some more of the glue. The other thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to take that backing off, because one, it's now another adhesive holding my card in place, and honestly, glue on here, that's just too slick. It's not going to do much. So we're going to just do a little bit of this. Decide where we want it. That looks great. Yep, that works. Now for that front piece, remember we have the black that we die cut from the center. And now we're going to stamp that saying, "Open if you dare." I'm stamping the saying itself in black ink. I'm using the little ink spots. We have these in the catalog that you can fill. This was one that came in Paper Pumpkin. For me, sometimes my hands don't have a great day. I struggle with arthritis, and these are easier for me to control. So you'll often see me using the ink spots rather than the big ink pads. Okay, I'm going to stamp. When I'm stamping with a block, I'm going to go straight down, count to 5, and come back up. And I'm going to punch that out with my 1.5 inch circle punch. I was just going to quick show you. Our punches store flat like this. For example, I have mine on a shelf and I can read them all. When I'm ready to use it, I'm just going to open the lever. I'm punching from the back so I can see where my saying is. And I don't want to center this because I'm going to add a pearl and a spider yet. So I'm going to move it towards the bottom. There we go. We'll get that out of the way. And my spider, I'm going to do in Blackberry Bliss ink. The ink spots we sell in the catalog, I either put a color circle on the bottom or write on them so I know what color ink I have. I'm just going to tap the ink on and add my spider. Ooh, look at that guy. I'm not really a fan of spiders, but can't beat him for a Halloween card. Okay, now I'm attaching this to my black circle, and I'm just going to use a bit of the liquid multi-purpose glue, and that's going in the center, like so. We're going to clean up our space and grab two things, our pearls, which is such a favorite, and I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. Dimensionals, think of them like little pieces of foam that have adhesive on both sides. And they're great just to pop something up. 3 will be plenty. So we'll go like this and like this. And then to pull the back off, you can use your fingernails. For me, the point of the Take Your Pick tool works so much better. There we go. I'm going to go right over the ribbon, like so. All right. Now, here is those lovely pearls I was talking about. I keep my embellishments in separate stamp cases so that they don't go flying. If some come loose, they're still contained. These are beautiful, and they have different variations of color. There's blue and green and purple. So for this card, I pulled the ones that looked a little purple for me, but honestly, they kind of changed depending on the light, so I'm not sure that it mattered hugely. I'm going to put one there. When I add embellishments to something, I like to do them in odd numbers, and I typically put them roughly in a triangular shape. I started my paper crafting journey, let's try that again, Joni. My paper crafting journey with scrapbooking. And often in scrapbooking, we are encouraged to put things in a triangular shape so your eye kind of follows it. And I just carry that over to this. All right, we are almost there, guys. First card. We need to stamp something in the inside. And on the inside of this one, I have Happy Halloween. You're going to see me if you watch my videos. I'm a huge fan of the Stamparatus. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes my hands have good days and some not such good days. This allows me to have even stamping regardless of how my hands are doing. It allows me to stamp multiple ones without setting up and making sure I'm straight every time. When you get the Stamparatus, you can also order these paper grids. I love these. So I trace my card shape on here, and then I know each time that it's going to be straight. And I stamp first on the grid to make sure I'm straight. The grid on the plate also helps me make sure I'm straight. Okay, so then I'm going to stamp and put a clear case underneath there. This is where I got the stamp set for both of those from. It's called Hallows Night Magic. Again, that will be listed on my blog. And when you're inking up your stamps, regardless of whether they're on a block or a plate for a Stamparatus, you just want to tap, maybe twist a little bit. What you don't want to do is push really hard. When you're pushing really hard, I know you're trying to get more ink on your stamps, but what you're doing is pushing ink actually away from the stamp and out the side of the ink pad. Not what you want at all. Then, this is where I'm going to give it a little muscle. Wonderful. If I didn't like it, like for example, if part of the H didn't stamp right, I wouldn't have to worry about lining anything up because nothing has moved. I just ink it and stamp again. So that's getting out of here. I'm moving these two out of the way. And then I'm going to grab that little spider I used before. And I'm going to add him on the inside too. Sometimes it's fun to have more than just a sentiment on the inside. Again, I'm just going to tap the ink on. And let's put him coming off the card up here. Ooh, there we go. That is a creepy Halloween. All right, setting that aside. We're almost done, guys. Let's trim up our envelope flap. This is where we had glued it on. Use the guide. Your envelope flap is your guide. And just trim away. It's a great use of paper scraps. It doesn't take much time, but it really adds some wow factor to your handmade cards. Someone could be getting a batch of cards, but they'd notice yours because of the envelope. There we go. All we have left is to attach this on the inside. Grab a little bit of glue. You don't need a lot. There we go. And let's get that in there. Now, if you do like I do sometimes, I wasn't paying attention. I got just a touch of glue here. Just grab that out of there. It's going to dry, and it will be fine. If you feel like it's still sticky, on the market are something called adhesive erasers. They look like this, and when that dries, I could just pull up any residue that's left. So card 1. Open if you dare. There's a great scary Halloween card. Let's set those pieces aside and let's look at the next card we're going to make. Oh yes, look at that fun little owl. This owl is part of a stamp set that has both Halloween and Christmas owls. It is so cute. And there's multiple images of both. So for Halloween, you could use this one and this one and this one. And for Christmas, you could use this one with the mistletoe and the family. Don't we all have somebody who's bouncing off on a family picture? There we go, and one with a gift. I'm using the Halloween images today. And I'm also going to talk with you a little bit about coloring on vellum. And for the envelope on this one, I didn't cover the envelope flap, but I grabbed one of those cute owls and stamped it. You may not know this about me, but I'm not really a fan of coloring. I know some of you would also color the envelope. Yeah, I would be that would be more than I'm going to get done. So let's talk about what we're going to do here. We're going to stamp first. This is vellum. Vellum is great. It adds a whole different dimension to your cards. It's an opaque paper. See how you can kind of see through it? That's good and bad. It adds a great image, but it also is sometimes hard to add adhesive or other things because you can see through it. So we'll talk through that. So let's do our stamping first. Then we'll get to all the other pieces. Again, I'm going back to a Stamparatus. And I have it set up so I can stamp that vellum circle and my envelope at the same time. I love when you can be a little more efficient like that. So we're going to open up our Stamparatus. As you can see, or maybe not because I did it in pencil, but I have a space here for my envelope. So that's going there. Okay, and it's getting stamped in that corner, so I'm going to add the magnet to this corner. And then I can actually see through the vellum where I want to stamp, so that helps with placement also. That's going to go there. That's going to go there. I'm going to grab my black ink and ink up both of my images. Again, these came from the same stamp set. And I'm going to stamp. There we go. And especially for this card, you want to do your stamping first because when you're using vellum, ink can kind of sit on the surface of the vellum and you want to give it a second to dry. Probably a little longer than a second. So check this out, guys. How cute is that? I'm going to set that aside, and while we assemble the rest of the card, it will give it enough time to dry before we color it, and our envelope is done. So that was the front and the envelope. While we're stamping away, let's also do the inside. And for the inside, I also grabbed stamps from here, and I use for the inside of my cards a 4 by 5 1/4 piece. I'm going to do the inside stamped in orange. And the actual orange is called pumpkin pie. It's the same orange I'm using on the front of the card. And that kind of pulls it all together. Notice I'm, again, just tapping this ink on. I'm not pushing hard. And if I didn't get the image I wanted, I can just stamp again. I think I need to stop after this video and wash my plates. Oh my gosh, I hadn't noticed how bad they were. There we go. Now, those of you who are great at coloring would probably color that image. Again, I will not. I'm good with it. All right. Let me pull some pieces apart and let's assemble our card front. We'll get that out of the way. And we have a card base. Oh, I have stuff everywhere. Sorry about that, guys. We need that and that and this. Does your crafting table end up like mine with stuff everywhere? Yeah. Again, 8.5 by 5.5. This is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Making sure I get a nice fold. I have embossed, and I'm going to actually demonstrate embossing with the next card, so I didn't with this one, but I'll tell you that I used the Woodland embossing folder, and I have a nice sharp image of these trees. We're going to attach that to the mat. Like so. And then I'm centering it on the pumpkin pie orange matte, orange and black. That just really speaks Halloween, doesn't it? There we go. This year I plan to send out lots and lots of Halloween cards. We're big fans of Halloween here, and honestly, I'm not sure what Halloween will look like this year. But I know at least I can send cards to everybody. And now that's going on the front of my card. And again, I don't need a lot of adhesive. For me, it's easier if I open the card flat. There we go, and just get that centered. And it's easy to do that. Orange really pops against the black, so I know if I'm straight. There we go. We have one more thing we're going to do before we color. We're going to get the inside of our card in there. This is Have a Hoot on Halloween. And I purposely did it in orange, not only to pick up the color, but then honestly, I felt like I didn't need to color it. Like if I had done it in black, I probably would have stopped and add some orange to the pumpkin and some gray to the owl. But this way, I figure all in orange, it kind of adds color without feeling like I need to do something else. As I said, coloring is not my thing. Okay, so now let's talk about this little one. So I have stamped it. And I'm not going to color on the front. When you're coloring, you have to be careful that you use the right ink pad with the right markers or whatever you're using for coloring. So for example, Stampin' Up! Sells blends, which are alcohol markers. They need a certain kind of ink. Markers itself need a certain kind of ink. I don't have to worry about that because I'm going to color on the back. So I'm going to set it down. And as we've talked about, I'm tired of hearing how I'm not a colorer. I just don't feel very confident in it. I am lucky on my Stampin' Up! Team. Some of the demos on my team are amazing at coloring, and they're very generous. They've even given, some of them have even given me some lessons, and I feel better than I used to. But I was not that kid who liked to color. I spent a lot of time crafting with paper crafts. I loved, as a kid, this is how old I am, we had paper dolls. And you would cut out the dolls, and you would cut out the clothes. And anybody watching remember that? And I had little tabs on the side of the clothes that you attached. That was my idea of heaven. You'd get a big book of them, and you could cut them apart. I remember doing that. I also remember cutting the clothes apart, like putting a different top with a different bottom, because I was sure I had a better eye for fashion, you know, than that. But yes, so that I loved doing. And anything that involved glue, I was right on that. Yeah, coloring, not so much. Partly because with coloring, I would work really hard, then I would mess it up, like go outside the lines or something, and there was no way to fix it. Where if you were cutting and gluing, you could always just cut again or put something over it to cover it up. But a coloring book was just like, yeah. So that was not my thing. And this little guy, there's a little bit, a branch that isn't stamped that I want to show there. So I'm going to add that so he doesn't look like he's hanging on to mid-air. So there's our tree. Our markers have two ends. What I'm calling a marker point and a brush end. And the marker point is smaller and firmer, and I like that for something like this. For the owl that has more space to cover, I'm going to grab the brush end, and I'm just filling in very lightly, making sure that, trying not to get in the eyes, on that little beak, like so. The other thing you want to do when you're coloring like this one on vellum, I'm trying really hard not to move the vellum, because if any ink has come off, it's sticking to my paper, which is good. But if I move it, that ink may transfer back on, and I don't want to do that. So that's done. We're almost there, guys. We have just a little bit left. In order to make that beak pop, I grab the pumpkin pie, which again is a color then that's consistent throughout, and I'm coloring his beak, and for lack of a better word, toenails. I know that's not what they are, but nothing else is coming to mind right now. And then all we have left is the spider. So I will fill the body in. Okay. See how some of that came off, but because I kept it in the same spot, it didn't transfer to anywhere else. Quite a difference. Didn't take a lot of coloring on my part. Now, we talked earlier that sometimes vellum is hard to add adhesive because you see through it. So I'm going to put the adhesive behind anywhere I colored. And I am back to one of my favorites. I'm going to use glue dots. And I'm going to grab the Take Your Pick tool, and I'm just kind of adding them where I have a lot of coloring. This is so lightweight. It doesn't need a lot of adhesive, but because I'm attaching it to an embossed surface that is not like a flat paper, there are some nooks and crannies in there, and I want to make sure, and this glue dot is just not playing nice today, so it's gone. I oftentimes take the paper to the glue dot, and honestly, that's easier. It's just that I have a certain spot I need it to land in, so I wanted to be able to have what I thought was a little more control by taking the glue dot to the project. There we go. Oh, Joni, again, fingers are today not playing nice either. We're gonna get rid of that one. I'm sure you know I didn't have any trouble with this when the camera wasn't running. There. And to get something to hold it there, I'm going to put it under the spider. My glue dot is slightly bigger than this. I can cut it in half, or I can just roll it over to make it slightly smaller. And let's grab that and stick it there. All right. You can decide where on here. I'm kind of putting it higher up as if it's higher up in the card, you know, up in the trees that are embossed on the back. And I'm almost done. I have one more thing I want to do. I love Wink of Stella. I can't tell you how much I love it. It adds a touch of glimmer without being messy. If it's been sitting on your craft table for a bit, even a day, shake it really, really well. Get all that loveliness mixed up in there. And then think of it as a brush with glimmer. No glitter mess, nothing spills out, nothing transfers to everything else. And I'm going to take this and you know how sometimes spider webs look like they're kind of glittering in the sun? I'm going to make this guy glitter. And you're drawing your attention to that like kind of spooky part of your card. There we go. And card 2 is done. Look how quick you can get some Halloween cards in the mail. Nothing to it. All right. Our last card uses another favorite product from this suite, and it's the black glimmer paper. Oh, guys, this stuff is just lovely. And the new cobweb embossing folder. So let's pull pieces out for that card. For this one, I'm reaching for the stamp set and it doesn't want to be, here we go. Ghoulish Goodies, perfect name for a Halloween stamp set. And we're going to talk about this lovely ribbon too. All right. Let's first stamp. That's always a good place to start. Then we'll emboss. As I'm pulling things apart here. There. Okay, we need to stamp on here. And we need to stamp on here. For the front, I have traced this shape on the paper of my Stamparatus. We all know by now how much I love the Stamparatus. I'm going to, just at the top and the bottom, catch my label. I cut these labels with the dies that come in this set. I use these two right here. And the set is called Halloween Magic Dies. And I'm going to do my bird cage in black ink. I'm going to move it slightly so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do the saying in Blackberry Bliss. Sometimes if you have two colors on there, they just pop a little bit more. And that's going there. Notice I'm not getting very heavy with that ink. I'm closing it, and I notice as I'm closing that my magnet's going to be in the way. So I'm pulling it back and back again. There. Now I'm going to push down. This is where you want to put all your effort in stamping. Not I'm pushing that ink into the stamp, but when you're applying the stamp to paper, that's where you need the muscle. Okay, so look guys, my saying looks great. My bird cage, on the other hand, I don't know if you can tell, looks pretty sad. This is what's great about a Stamparatus. I don't have to ink this up anymore. I'm just going to ink up this. Nothing has moved. What I am going to do, guys, I pulled this up and I shouldn't, is I don't want this to ink anymore because I like how that looks. So I'm just going to quick grab a Post-it note and pop that over that. This now, I'm going to ink up my bird. Like so. Let's see how we did. Oh, so much better. Don't you love that? Nothing had moved. There's no way, before I had a Stamparatus, that I would get that lined up to do that again. I would have tossed the whole label and been crappy about it. So that part is done. We'll set the label aside. Get that out of the way. And let's do the inside. For the inside, I grabbed stamps from a stamp set called Banner Year. Actually, I grabbed a couple. I did Happy Haunting, and then I wanted, because the front has a cobweb, I wanted that little spider coming down, and so I grabbed the little spider from Festive Corners. Again, everything will be in my blog. All right. Now, another trick when you're using the Stamparatus, because I've traced all this out, I know where it's supposed to land, but it's not going to land there if I don't make sure my paper is in the corner. So this is here. And there. These magnets that come with the Stamparatus are crazy strong. They just literally fly into each other. So as soon as I get them, I wrap them in my lovely flamingo duct tape. And then that does two things. It gives me a handle if they do fly together, so I can pull them apart. And it also gives me that same handle, or that duct tape, if they do fly together, it keeps them from shattering. If they would shatter, because they just fly, it keeps your pieces together. You don't have pieces everywhere. I'm doing my spider in black and my Happy Haunting in Blackberry Bliss. And I don't know if you can tell, but I actually put the stamp off of the paper a little bit, so I didn't have like an ending point of where that thread was coming down, so it looked like it was coming right down to the card. Okay, let's see how we did. Ooh, we're good. All right. Now let's talk about our card front. We're going to do some embossing. And to emboss, we get to use brand new favorite of mine. It's the new Cut and Emboss machine. One of the things I love about it is this base plate, which you always use. Every plate is numbered and it tells you what plates you need based on what you're doing. I love when the machine reminds me of what I need, so I don't have to remember. We are using for this, as I'm reaching for it, the Cobweb embossing folder. And you know how you think, oh, right here, everything. These things that are clear, I'm always losing clear things. This is what's called a 3D folder. It's thicker, it gives a deeper impression. So this tells me when I'm using a 3D embossing folder, I need my base plate, what I'm embossing, and number 4. This is not a cutting plate. It's a different color. It's not clear. I like that. And it has the number 4 in it. Okay, so let's do some embossing. If you haven't used embossing folders before, just a couple tips. This black line on here is meant to help you line it up. Sometimes what you're embossing, you want to make sure it's really straight or going a certain way. A cobweb can kind of go every which way. When I'm sending this through, I put the fold first. The only time I can't is when I'm doing envelope flaps, which I'm actually going to show you next. So this goes through first, because as I close it, just a little bit of air gets in here, and that pushes the air away from there. so your folder doesn't have to work quite so hard. Seriously, guys, this machine, it works so smooth. If I told you all the benefits of the machine, we would be here a very long time. So I'm going to pull it out, partly because I don't want to catch my camera stand. I'm not sure you can tell, but this is amazing. I had used this embossing folder on my old machine. I did not get this much definition. Now, remember, I'm always talking about no naked envelopes, and we want to have something that pops so people know. So I've showed you can stamp on it. I've showed you attaching matching paper, which is one of my favorites. Another favorite is to emboss on the envelope flap. So the same embossing we have here will be on our envelope. But your envelope paper is much thinner than your cardstock. And sometimes, especially with a deep folder like this, if you just run one through, your envelope could rip or attach. So I do 2 at a time. Then I have 2 done at a time. Great saver, time saver. And I don't have that. When you are embossing an envelope, especially with one of these narrower folders, you can't do it at the bottom. It won't fit. So you do it at the side. You line it up so that that's at the end. You don't want to pull this under because it kind of messes with where it's going to land. And I can't do that under the camera. I want to line it up here where I can see. Okay, so then this is how we do that one. Move this back so you can see it's going this way. And I know I said to send this through first. This is the only exception. And then this. And there we go. And yes, it is supposed to make that little noise. I'm going to get this moved so we have room to make our last card, which is actually my favorite. I know you're not supposed to have favorites. All right. I'm making a lot of noise. I apologize. Let's look here. Okay, so the cobweb embossing folder. It's so much fun. Just think if you were getting a card and the envelope flap had this on it, you'd be like, ooh, what's inside? We're going to set that aside. Now, let's do some assembly. Here's this. We have a black card base. Line it up so I'm straight. And before I attach this fun Blackberry Bliss cobweb, we're going to play with ribbon. This is metallic mesh ribbon. And if some of you were on my Facebook page, I did a whole weekend of projects using materials from the August to December mini, and I kept using this ribbon. Even though it's in the Halloween suite, I used it on Christmas packages, I used it on Christmas cards. It's wonderful. So again, we're going to knot this, and I'm just going to knot, depending on how long a tail you want. Let's go about 12 inches again. It cuts beautifully, it's soft, it knots amazingly well. I've already gone through a spool of it, guys. It's just I keep using it on everything. You get plenty, and then I just want this in the center. So roughly, I'm going to pull my ribbon till I'm about there. And just like we did before, I'm going to grab some tear and tape. I just need a longer piece now, though. And I'm going to have that hold my ribbon in back, like so. And then I'm grabbing the glue dots. And we're going to add one where I want the knot to land. And on this card, I want the knot to land far right. So it's going to go right here. And then we're going to knot it. So, and knot again. And you don't have to even worry about trimming the ends because it can look kind of, every which way. There we go. Let's get that on our card front. We're going to remove the tear and tape backing. It's another way of having some adhesive on there to hold things in place. Like so. There we go. I have more adhesive on this backing than some of the other mats you saw, because when you emboss, you all of a sudden kind of have some, for lack of a better word, mountains and valleys. You know, it goes in and down, and so sometimes you need a bit more adhesive to get it to grab. Making sure my card base is straight. Oh, I just love Blackberry Bliss. Favorite color, and it really does pop like Halloween when you add it to the black. Now, this is that black glitter paper I was telling you about. Look, it's black on the back. It's flexible. Sometimes glitter paper is hard to use. It's very stiff. It's even hard to glue because of the kind of paper they usually put on. This is easy peasy. All right. We're going to attach this to our ribbon, and you could go right over the top. I think what I'm going to do is stick it underneath because I like how I see that ribbon coming through. The only trick with that is we're going to put a little bit of adhesive on it. And then we just need to make sure that we're kind of gentle, sticking it under there so I don't get it where I don't want it on my card. So I'm going to hold this up and almost keep it above the card till I get it where I want, then push it down. That way I didn't have like a trail of adhesive where I'd set it down to push it through. All right, remember this little guy, that's going there, but first we're going to put this on the inside because we're going to do one more thing on our card front, and I don't want to have to close it again to do this. So we need a touch of adhesive on here, just a bit. Someone would love getting this Halloween card from you. That's going to go there. That little spider looks like he's coming right down. Now, I wanted this to pop up just a little bit. So I went back to those dimensionals like we used before. And when you have a sheet of dimensionals, don't forget this. This is great real estate. I'm going to cut like that and take these strips and just stick them right here. So you don't just have to use the, the way they come cut for those pieces there. You can also use the long strips that are kind of holding your shapes in. Add a piece there. I'm probably getting a little carried away here, but I, over the ribbon and against glitter paper, I do use a few more just to make sure everything's going to stay in place. Because I'm not gluing on a flat paper surface. Then, because as I cut them, the backing kind of came off, it's really easy to pull them off. And let's attach that. There we go. Oh, this is such a fun Halloween card. It really does pop. Now, I want that bird to do even more. So we're going to go back to our Wink of Stella, and we're going to make that bird be the focus. And what I'm doing is I'm just coloring it with Wink of Stella. Going right over the black image, like so. There we go. So we have our card done. We had already embossed the card envelope flap. And I'm not sure if you can tell, but you really can see the cobweb. But it is white on white, which is a look I like. But sometimes for Halloween, maybe I want it to look a little different. So another option, once I've embossed it, is to take, I'm grabbing a sheet of scrap paper because I don't really want this on my work surface. I'm grabbing that little ink spot I had. You could use a dauber. If you have better hand control than I do, you could actually use a big ink spot, a big ink pad. You could use a sponge. But look how all of a sudden you can see that cobweb. Isn't that fun? Now what I'm doing is closing it. And I'm just going to go, yeah, see, that's the other reason you don't want to do this on your surface. Right along there to get that last piece. And then I can just kind of go a couple more streaks to get darker in places, which is another way with your embossed pieces that you can do that. Okay, so let's look at the 3 cards we made. Spooktacular. There we go. I'm going to grab an envelope flap. I thought I was so smart. That wasn't already inked because it's a little wet. We'll just be extra, extra careful. So there's that one. There is this one with its matching envelope. And not to be outdone, here is our owl with its matching envelope. I'm going to move this one down a touch. There. All right, thanks for joining me to make 3 Halloween cards. If you're looking for new card ideas, I include a card project with supply list and directions in my Sunday night email. You can sign up for my email on my blog, scrappinwithjoni.com. You can also find, I have a Scrappin' with Joni Facebook page that I'm sharing projects all the time. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate a like. Click on thumbs up below. And if you're interested in more videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, keep crafting.